Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here, and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. Today, something a little bit different. This is an Emhar F94C Starfire in 1/72nd scale. So join me as I take a look inside the box of this kit and see what this one is like. So I'm going to get straight into this one, and I've only experienced one other Emhar kit to date, and that was the Lag 3. But yeah, I saw this on the website when I was doing a little bit of online shopping, and I thought, wow, that looks really interesting. I've never experienced that before, so I want to give it a go. As you can see, the plastic is still on the packet, so this is a brand new experience for me. So what I'm going to do is just get the plastic wrap off and get into this one so that we can take a good look at it. Go. So on the outside of the box, that's quite a nice image. I quite like the look of this. I quite like the Emhar style. Part of the reason why I went for it, because I saw it on the website and I thought, I don't actually know anything about this aircraft. It looks like an F80, but with extra stuff. So yeah, not bad artwork at all there. Tells us up here it's 1/72nd scale, and this is a late version. So I believe there is also an early version with slightly different components. Down bottom left, we have a product code of EM3004. The thin edge has some information about the actual Starfire. And it does say that it was a development from the F80. We have some information about the particular statistics of the aircraft, and if we move to the thin edge, we don't actually get anything more than we've already seen. The other thin edge also tells us that this is suitable for those aged 14 and older, but it requires assembly, and that it may contain functional sharp edges and points. The back of the box has some images of other kits which are available in the Emhar range. I have heard, well, various things about certain kits here, but the only one I've experienced is the Lag 3 there, which I'm hoping to build at some point. We can see over here that we have an address for Bachmann Europe, so either Bachmann owns this brand now, or they are at the very least a importer, but there is a copyright date of 2016. And you can see, since I've taken the cling film off, there's nothing actually holding the box on, and that will lift off very easily. So now we are met with our components. All loose inside the box, no bag. Not a fan of this. The box is a lot bigger than it actually needs to be, and you know, it can move around inside the box and we can have damage. It's a bit of an old-fashioned way of doing things, but let's have a look at the decals and the instructions first. Top opening boxes though are pretty handy, so let's just put the transfers to one side. And here are our instructions, printed in black and white. The English is here. Same information that we've seen on the box does make reference about how the late version had a radome and two 12-shot rocket pods. So yeah, that's what those pods are on the wings. They're rocket pods. And then inside we have our instructions, all printed in black and white, but they look relatively easy to follow. We've got cockpit details which go into a tub. We need to assemble our chairs twice because there's two of them. We have landing gear components which need to be assembled in this manner, so I presume that's the nose wheel, and this is your main landing gear. Then we come to, we have to assemble our wingtip tanks, and then we also have to assemble our fuselage components. And then after that we install the cockpit, the wings, the canopy and the tail surface. These instructions are relatively easy to follow, and they do make reference to the previous steps that they were done in, but there's no painting instructions as you go through, so you're going to have to sort of plan ahead a little bit. Also, I do find these instructions to be a little cluttered. There's a lot going on in each step, but I get they were probably trying to save production costs and only get this on one A4 page. So after this, we come down to this point where we install our landing gear. It doesn't make reference that we can install the landing gear in a raised position, but I imagine that would be a simple matter to glue in the landing gear covers in the relevant slots. After this, we add the nose cone. We could add our air brakes by the looks of it in a lowered position, and also the wingtip tanks. And here on this step it makes indication that we need to glue in our wing rocket pods. However, there's no markations on the kit. We actually have to physically measure the distance from the center line. So that's a best guess kind of thing. I would probably, if it was me, have said measure it from the wingtip tanks, because that's like the center line could be hard to measure from, but the tanks are a shorter distance by the looks of it. So that's probably the way I would have done it. On the back, we have our painting instructions. Unfortunately, they're painted in black and white, which means that it's a little bit harder to understand what we're doing. Things have been told to you. So aluminium is overall, dull metal is your rocket launch doors, black for your wing and tailplane leading edges. So, I mean, they've tried to make it as clear as possible, but I don't think anything really beats having it actually printed in color. We do have some decal instructions up here as well. But you do get 2 paint schemes included in the kit. Granted, they aren't that different from each other, as they represent very similar looking aircraft. The main difference being that I can see that there are different transfers based on which ones you want to do. Everything else seems to be pretty much painted the same standard. It's just the transfers that differentiate the aircraft. And again, down the bottom, copyright date of 2016. But copyright dates need to be taken with a pinch of salt, because that's just the date it was copyrighted. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a tooling or release date, which, if you know me, I love to see that information on the box. So that's a mark down here in this particular case. Anyways, we are now moving on to the decals, and they come on a decal sheet, but they've got this protective cover, which is like, I don't know, a protective piece of paper. Oh, that's interesting. There we go. So here are our transfers, and the film on these transfers looks a little thick. If you can see that, they look quite thick. The printing though is pretty good. The registration is all right. They do seem a little bit like the older Academy style transfers. I can't speak to the quality of Emhar transfers. They may be perfectly acceptable, but I would have to build the kit and find out. But generally speaking, other than the slightly thick decal film, they look acceptable. And you can see we've got our different kind of paint schemes here annotated. These look like common ones at the top, and then these are for the 2 different paint schemes that you may decide to use. Unsure which one I'll go for, because they look quite similar to me. But yeah, not terrible looking, but we need to find out how they go onto the model. And then that brings us on to the plastic parts. So I will look at the clear parts first, seeing as they're here. And we have one little sprue with our canopy parts on. They are molded to a reasonable quality. There is some little marks on there, which may need cleaning up. Flash is minimal. There's not much in the way of flash, but they are pretty nicely molded. The canopy frames are quite thick, so will be quite easy to mask with my normal method of tape and cutting around them. But yeah, generally not too bad. There is a bit of a mark on this one. There's like a scratch that runs down the side. I wonder if I can clean that off, but it would be. This probably stems from the fact that it's in the box loose, so you are prone to getting scratches and scuffs and little imperfections due to the fact that everything is free to just bounce around in the box. But anyways, let's look at the rest of the kit. It's a little questionable. The plastic itself is a little bit thin and flexible. That's got quite a lot of flex on it. It doesn't feel overly greasy. That's got a bit warped actually. But it does have recessed panel lines in places, which is interesting to see. No detail to speak of in the lower wing there for the landing gear bays. And I know that's something that the Airfix F80 had. So I know this is a more recent tooling than that Airfix F80. So it would have been nice to have seen, you know, them push it out a little bit further. Then after that we have tail surfaces. Interestingly, the tail surfaces have these little scuffs and things on the surface. I don't know if it'll pick it up on the video, but that's not fantastic. Hopefully that doesn't come up when you paint it and it sort of just hides it. We have our wheels and other small components, which are, the sprue gates holding these on are quite chunky. Then we also have chairs, the nose cone, other small details, the cockpit tub. The details are moderate. I mean, they build up into an acceptable looking kit, I think, but on the whole, it looks a bit clunky, a little bit simple. We have a copyright date on the wing there of 1993, so spoilers for when this was made. And it does say it was made in England, so I wonder if it is actually made in England. Moving on to the last sprue, same sort of deal. Flexible plastic, not overly greasy. Recessed panel lines in places, but the detail is very simplistic. You can see here that this sprue gate has been holding on to this wing and sort of ripped a little bit of plastic off. There is a bit of flash which will need cleaning up. Small details here. Generally okay, but again a bit of flash. Wingtip tanks, they look okay. I don't like these big sprue gates though, not a fan of that. Rocket pods there, not terrible. Small details here, I just have to be really careful when you build this. It hasn't got the finesse of other kits from other companies. No detail on the internal side of the cockpit there. Ejector pin marks don't seem to be overly heavy or in anywhere particularly visible. Yeah, so this is an interesting kit of an interesting subject, but it is a bit lacking. I think maybe if it had indicated on the box the sort of tooling age, you would have sort of an expectation of the standard. You'd be able to manage your expectations before you actually came to get this one. I don't know how well it will build up naturally, but hopefully it builds up fairly nicely into a reasonable representation, and I can get it to look quite nice. I may do something similar to how I built my F80 shooting star a little while ago. Pretty much rattle can the whole thing and then just get those transfers down. So yeah, let's wrap this one up. We've got one grey plastic sprue. I feel as though the quality is moderate. It's not great. There is flash. The details are somewhat questionable. There are scuffs on the plastic from the tooling. The sprue gates are quite large. The plastic is overly thin and flexible, but hopefully it does build up into a reasonable representation of the kit. We have two clear parts, which whilst molded to a good quality have suffered a few scuffs, but that's primarily due to the fact, I would imagine, that everything is loose in the box, and that's less than optimal. We have one set of transfers that, whilst printed to a nice quality, the transfer film, I mean, I can feel it as I run my finger over it. It's sort of like, it feels a bit like braille with raised surfaces. So not fantastic, somewhat thick, but I hope that they apply to the model fine and they don't disintegrate on me. So that would be a win. And then we have our instructions, which, whilst usable, generally could maybe do with being printed in colour, particularly for the painting instructions, and being less cluttered, as I think that would help. So areas of this kit that I find a little disappointing is there's no crew, there's no indication of a display stand that you could potentially use with this kit. Usually you would have a mark in the internal side of the lower wing or potentially in the fuselage, but that doesn't seem to exist here. They didn't factor in a display stand or crew, so it's wheels down. With the reference to wheels down being used, it doesn't make any indication that you can do wheels raised if you would like to do so, but I imagine that you probably could by gluing in the landing gear covers. I also wonder if you would be able to glue in your canopy in the open position, but I think the way they've designed it is only for closed, so without modification that may not be possible. But yeah, all of that comes contained within a box, which actually I think the artwork on the box is pretty good. It's just a shame that they haven't got the other kinds of information on the box that I would like to see, such as your tooling date and release date. Although yes, it does say a copyright date of 2016, they tend to have filled up the back of the box with just artwork of the other kits that are available in the range, which is very kind of like 90s, early noughties kind of style. Most times now model kit companies would actually just fill that with information about, you know, the actual product. So talking about this kit then, I have been onto the Bachmann website. As mentioned, Bachmann are either the importers or the owners of this brand. They have a recommended retail price of £16.99. So let's just call that a penny short of £17. No, it's not worth that, in my opinion. I don't remember how many parts. I don't think it said how many parts were included. Yeah, okay. We do have a picture here for our decal scheme for one of them, which does help a little bit, and you do have this on here which you could use to help guide you. But for everything you're getting in the kit, the transfers look a bit questionable. The plastic parts are considerably old. As mentioned, we kind of already know the tooling age. I think £16.99 is a very optimistic price for this particular product, especially when I suppose we compare it to my F80 that I built from Airfix. Whilst, you know, not the best kit in the world, I think the quality was a little bit higher. It did come with a bit more finesse in the part. It had internal detail which you can't see because obviously I glued mine in a flying pose because it came with a pilot. This kit is almost double what this kit cost, so it's a bit questionable as to why. And this kit is an older tooling. If the information in this kit is believed, this one is, in my opinion, a little bit more superior than this one. But that is comparing a similar kit rather than a like for like, because naturally the F80 isn't an F94. So with that in mind, at retailing at £16.99, how much did I actually pay for this? Well, I was shopping online a little while ago and I managed to pick this one up for £10.18. So that's quite a saving, which in my opinion is a better deal. However, given what's inside of the kit, I'm still a bit reluctant to say that that is a suitable price for it. I would imagine that this kit would probably be around the £8 mark, given what we've seen here today. Which, if you think about it, is effectively half the price that Bachmann or Emhar are asking for it. So with that in mind, we have already seen a date on the inside from when this was copyrighted originally, and that was 1993. So this is a 1993 tooling, but it doesn't really feel like a 1993 tooling. It feels a bit older than that, given some of the design choices that they've made with some of these parts. I've had other kits from other manufacturers from around that same time period, and it would have looked old in comparison even then. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure I'm convinced with this particular kit, and whilst an interesting subject, I am looking forward to giving it a go and building it up to see how it fares. I'm just not entirely sure how good that experience is going to be. And with that, I think it's probably time to end this one here. Let me know what you thought of my review down in the comments and if you agreed with my assessment of this kit. And don't forget, you can always drop a suggestion as to other videos you'd like to see in the future. As always, a quick shout out to my Model Club members. Thanks to these guys on screen for their extra support. If you'd like to join them and find out more about what becoming a Model Club member means, take a look at the links in the description. Alternatively, there are other ways to help support the channel as well, and again, full information is below the video. The best way to support this channel for free though is by subscribing with notifications turned on, so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, the last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.